It's just ugly.
I'm saying deck it out, like
make it Halloween-y? Sure. I think I might take them to the dairy farm behind Bonaventure.
Oh, that's good too.
It's just
that's
the
great.
bugs. There's a lot of bugs.
Yeah.
That's connected, ready to roll. All right, y'all, we ready?
Yeah.
Always.
All right, I am gonna go to Madison.
Boom.
And we are gonna get you ready. So that's how everything looks.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
Okay.
The beauty lighting really is on point.
I know.
That off. All right. All right. Got a couple views already.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
Okay, is everybody ready?
Boo-haw.
Boom.
Boo-haw.
Boom. Boomity boom. Boomity boom. Boomity boom. Boomity boom.
All right, Maddie.
Yes.
Go ahead and roll.
We're
on audio.
We're starting with the spooky game, right?
Spooky game. But we're also going to remember we have to talk about Empanada Loca.
Yeah.
And just throw a little something just super quick in there about Cosmic.
Okay.
And then remind everyone why it's so great to be a bear junkie. Zero ads, mainly that. Mainly zero ads. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
And supporting your favorite podcast. All right. And let's see, I'm rolling.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And today we have Megan with us. Megan James.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we have Chris's wife, Megan, which all of you have been asking to see on the podcast. I'm not kidding.
I don't know why.
Well, because we've discussed your fears of Chris's haunted
Let's say
objects.
aversions to all haunted things, really.
It's true.
To all the spooky things. But yes, so we decided to bring Megan on today because we're going to be playing a game. You want to play a game? Can I say that even though we're monetized? I don't know if that's a copyright thing, but it's
that'd be hard to copyright. I think you're okay.
That's true.
Well, it's the way that you say it.
Yeah, that's right.
Or yeah, well,
add any distortion to it and it's over.
Or if you go with the spiral version, I want to play a game. If you saw Spiral, then you know.
I did not.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Do you want to build a snowman?
So if you just change the tenor of the quote, you're fine.
Yeah.
Do you want
you
to
wanna
build
play a
a
game?
snowman?
You want to play a game, and then you're good to go.
Exactly. But yes, so we're going to play a game. We actually asked the Parajunkies the other night because we came up with this concept over dinner, and we had decided that wouldn't it be fun if we came up with cryptid names and then had to decide where these cryptids live, what they do, and what makes them so scary. So we'll get into that in just a second. But before we do all that, we should definitely thank a couple of our new Parajunkies.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard to the spooky side. I have to pull it up on my phone.
Just tell them why it's so great to be a parajunkie.
It is so great to be a parajunkie because you get to first call yourself a parajunkie, and that is wonderful to begin with.
What a perk.
And first and foremost, you get a lot of extra content, a lot of things that nobody else gets to see, only the parajunkies, and it's all ad-free. And let's all face it, we will pay the extra money to get rid of the ads, and that is what it's all about. That's how we deal in this society. Get rid of the ads.
Get rid of the ads. No more ads. But yes, so we want to thank Angie Fenton, Maria Cruz, Ricky Williams, Adrian Lopez, and Casey. Thank you guys so much for becoming Parajunkies, and I hope you enjoy this wonderful community of spooky people. But yes, other than that, though, we do also want to thank a few of our sponsors. We want to thank Cosmic Corner. Cosmic Corner is a local metaphysical shop here in Savannah. They have everything that you could possibly want for your metaphysical needs, your witchy needs, your spooky needs.
And they have an online store.
They do. They have an online store. It's called shopcosmiccorner.com, and definitely check them out. They're a queer-owned business. They are lovely, lovely people. So if you need witchy goods, definitely head on over there. But also, let us thank our other sponsor, Savannah Repertory Theater, who have their production of Empanada Loca coming up, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. JT and I just got a little sneak peek of the set the other day, and it looks absolutely phenomenal.
They do such amazing work. Their shows are phenomenal.
And it's going to be a really cool way to kick off your spooky season. It's the first 2 weekends of September. So that's going to be actually the second weekend and the third weekend of September.
So this is the first weekend of September, isn't
Yes, technically, yes. So that's going to be September 7th through the 10th, and then the 14th through the 17th. But to give you a little brief synopsis of it, pretty much it's about a woman who currently lives in an abandoned subway, and she has some odd ways of going about her clientele.
Indeed.
Let's just put it this way: it's based off of Sweeney Todd. So if you know, you know. So
Only with empanadas.
with empanadas, and it's going to be a really good time. So if you're in the Savannah area, definitely check out Empanada Loca. It's going to be a really awesome production, and JT and I will be there at some point during the second weekend. So maybe you'll run into us, and I know you'll be going, I'm sure. So.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't miss a Savannah Rep show, honestly. We try to catch them all.
Exactly. So, yes. With that, though, let us go ahead and dive right on into the cryptids.
Boom, boom.
But yes.
Cryptids and or demons.
And or
Is that
demons.
right?
We can
It's,
decipher.
Cryptid and or demons.
I think it really depends on the name we get.
Exactly.
So we pick first and foremost cryptid or demon, and then run with it and see what that thing is known for.
I concur. Yes, this is not a game that most people know or anything because we just made it up.
Boom.
So we're going to make the rules up as we go, I guess. But
Tell everyone about Oddlot.
yeah, I was literally about to get into that.
She's like, I'm getting to it.
I'm getting to it, John. But yes, so Chris and Megan actually own a improv company called Oddlot Improv. If you guys want to further explain what Oddlot is, but
Oh, you're going to look at me?
I leave it to you.
I'm just a guest here, sir. So Oddlot Improv is an improv troupe. We do short form improv comedy in the style of Whose Line Is It Anyway? And we don't have a home currently, but we do have shows every now and then. We've performed at the Savannah Reps space downtown. Family friendly. It's super fun. It's a lovely time and always super funny. I personally love improv, but I've seen a lot of improv, and I can say ours is some of the best. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they do fantastic work, and yes, if you ever are in Savannah or if you live in Savannah, you see that Oddlot is doing a show, you definitely don't want to miss it because it's really fun, and the troupe is really, really awesome as well. We work with a lot of oddlotters and things like that. So
There's a lot of cross-pollination.
there is a lot of cross pollination between us and the oddlotters, the lotters, if you will.
The lawyers.
But yes. All right, so let us pull up some names. All right, so the first one, I don't know who any of these names come from for the most part, except for one, just because I did see the notification pop up on my phone when this was posted. But the first name comes from Patrick Welsh with the Paranormal Society of
excellent.
Savannah, and it is the Bunky Bandit.
The Bunky Bandit. Oh my! Although that does sound like kind of like a redneck Robin Hood.
A little bit.
You know?
Honestly, I'm getting raccoon out of this, right?
Oh.
Like the bandit makes me think of the
yeah.
eye patch. I'm seeing a raccoon, but like a human-sized one.
Oh yeah,
Which
sure.
would be a
There you go.
mess.
That would be
So we're definitely going cryptid.
Cryptid.
over
cryptid,
demon.
For
cryptid,
sure.
cryptid over demon.
I think fuzzy but scary.
Yeah, the more you add bandit to it, it kind of gives it its own flavor.
But
as
we
it were.
can't deny Bunky.
Bunky.
So, the
Bunky.
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 So he lives in the boondocks.
The Boondocks, naturally.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would make sense. So it's a raccoon, a massive life-size, well, not raccoon life-size, but human life-size raccoon that lives in the boondocks.
Mm-hmm.
And
I feel like he comes for your trash. Like the way you get him is to have an unkept trash area. Your trash can overflows, and that's when he is summoned to.
Fair enough, but giving him the bandit moniker, let's not forget that raccoons have fingers.
Hands. Too many hands.
So we can infer that the Bunky Bandit in the dead of night comes a crawling into your house and takes your pre-trash before it's garbage.
pre-trash.
The pre-trash. Rifles through your goods.
Through the
Rifles through
refrigerator?
your pantry. Into your refrigerator. Think about it. It's claws reaching into your pantries and your refrigerators, taking your goods and off into the night.
Everything pre-trash
Yes.
by definition.
Fair enough. Children, beware. This child is pre-trash.
No.
The Bunky Bandit's coming for you. Coming for
Honestly,
you.
that's exactly what I think the Boonky Bandit does. So if you live in the boondocks, then you must
Or
be
boondock adjacent.
boondock
Boondock
adjacent.
adjacent.
For when the pre-trash isn't that great and they've got to outsource the
Right,
pre-trash. So
There's better pre-trash in the neighborhoods.
So
You know?
Yes.
when you get hit by the Boonky Bandit, do you go, that wasn't even trash yet?
Exactly.
Yes.
I didn't throw that away.
I wasn't done with that.
That might even be it. Like while you're eating, it shows up and just takes it out of you. I'm not done with that.
You've seen the videos of the birds swoop down and take
Yeah.
like fries out of your hand. That's him, but he comes into your house and he opens the door with his thumbs
Skittering about.
and he just like plucks it out of your hand
Plucks
as
it
you're
right out of
eating.
your hand. Like if you've ever been eating popcorn and then you're like reach in and you're like, I already
out of
finished this
it.
popcorn. The Bunky Bandit had come and emptied the popcorn while you're eating. You're not eating as much as you think you are. The Bunky Bandit is actually cleaning your plate, taking your snacks.
I mean, have you ever been microwaving something and you walked away? You come on back, but it's just gone. Because
Wait, that was just me. I'm sorry.
oh my god, that makes so much more sense actually. Since
are
we've just
you a
made it up.
Boonky Bandit?
I might be a Bunky Bandit.
That wasn't
Oh,
even
no.
trash yet.
It wasn't trash yet.
It's pre-trash.
Pre-trash.
You with your thumbs.
I do have thumbs. Oh.
Oh, so that might be a. You know how like the Hat Man has different evolutions.
Right,
of it?
exactly.
Like a Pokemon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Megan, you clearly haven't listened to the podcast enough.
I was
Because,
hoping I wouldn't be called out on this. I have not. I listen to this man a lot, though, at home, so I figured I've done my due diligence.
yes. But yes, the Hat Man has many evolutions as well, exactly like a Pokemon, because you've
I'm
got
not even in my final form.
exactly, and so Chris is slowly morphing into the Boonky Bandit. So
Or the Bunky Bandit had evolved into me.
ooh,
That's messed up.
The
That
final,
is.
I don't like that.
The final iteration is
Just Chris Susie.
Chris Susie.
yes.
That was just there's more
Bunch of Chris
you
Susies just out there.
around. How many Boonky Bandits turn into Chris Susie and just are pre-trashing it up?
Are you done with that?
No, I told you.
Are you? How did your steak out?
Where'd all the popcorn go? That is you.
It's me. Oh no, I'm the
right.
Bunky Bandit.
So there you go, Patrick. I'm sure that's exactly what you were picturing when you.
He's here. He's in the room with us.
Is he in the room with us? Okay.
Oh, in this, yeah.
Oh,
okay,
yes. Yes, is he in the room right now?
no,
Where are you
no.
hiding,
He's
Patrick?
a Bunky Bandit too.
Oh, God. This one's going to be one for the memes.
I'm Bunky Bandit.
All right. So our second creature, demon or cryptid, Squonk the demon.
Oh well,
I guess-
it kind of says it in the
Actually,
name,
I
doesn't
think
it?
we should try to make it a cryptic, just like
Right.
do a workaround.
Squonk the demon.
So it's a squonk that wants to be a demon.
Oh, there you go.
And so, therefore, it's got body dysmorphia,
Squonk.
and so it's
It's a Pokemon too. That's
Yeah.
all he says is squonk.
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 Squonk. Squonk.
and
It's just
so-
fun to say, squonk.
Exactly, yeah. So the squonk wants to be a demon, and that's why it cries instead of being so ugly. It's like, oh no, I'm not a demon. I had to be born a squonk.
And it raises an interesting question because the identifying feature of a squonk is that it has self-esteem issues. So what if you had a self-assured squonk? What if the squonk wasn't, a victim of poor self-esteem, but in fact an arrogant squonk?
Ooh.
So now we have an arrogant squonk. The thing that we never really learned about the squonk was that, according to legend, for those of you who do not know, the squonk is a cryptid from Pennsylvania that is so ugly that it cries about it. And you find it by following the sound of its crying. And if you capture it, it will dissolve in tears until it's a puddle of bubbles.
Oh, it literally dissolves?
It
Yeah, it literally
dissolves.
dissolves out of just pure sorrow and pity.
And so
But what if it didn't have pity? What if it were arrogant? What if it had horrible dissolving powers? What if instead of
acid?
dissolving itself, it dissolves other people?
So would it find people with low self-esteem and thus dissolve them? And I feel like
That's
squonk
actually
would change.
pretty good.
It would not be squonk, which is like an explicitive. It would be squonk.
Yeah, squonk.
Because it's like, it's got,
So-
no more self-esteem, and she's like, squonk.
So what if it's
Squonky.
going off of your oh God.
No.
That does sound like a slur. I'm sorry.
Yes, squonky. No. So going off of your idea that it dissolves people with low self-esteem, it's almost like a hag, where
Oh,
it
there you go.
sneaks into your house in this ugly, leathery creature pig thing.
It's a pig thingy. It's like a Shar-Pei pig
It is. It's wrinkly. It's leathery. It's got
covered
a,
in blisters and warts. And it just cries because it's ugly.
but
so alone
It
and
cr-
ugly.
it crawls onto your chest and it starts crying. It's pity tears for you.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're so sad. And the tears are acid.
Yes.
Oh, no.
And that would make it demonic,
That would make it
Oh,
demonic.
okay.
There you go.
It's made it all full circle then.
Yes.
Yes, it is sent from the bowels of hell to punish those who have low self-esteem.
It's a,
Can you be sent from different points of hell?
Oh, I'm sorry. From the left pectoral
yes,
of
thank
hell.
you. That's what I was looking for.
that's where the squonks live.
The left pectoral of hell. Ew. So it's a real demon?
It's a real
Or
cryptid.
a real cryptid that we're trying to
Yes.
make a real demon?
Into a demon, yeah.
Yeah, it's a crossbreed.
The demonic
So-
squonk. The demonic squonk.
Yeah, it's a squonk that has been taken by the powers of evil.
There you go.
And so
So if it's gone from a cryptid to a demon, we need to give it one attribute, I think, that makes it feel like bat wings, like giant bat wings.
Oh,
it needs one thing.
A flying squonk.
there. So when it gets its bat wings,
That
it
too
goes,
sounds like a swear. Well, a flying squonk.
it goes from this thing that cries over its looks to a thing that's like, I got the wings now.
That-
Now
that-
you are the sad one, right?
That's true. That's true. And a flying squonk could be crying tears of acid that rain down on you as it flies over.
well, so if we were going in the realm of, squonk ugliness, what if it got like a curly pigtail and used its pigtail like a propeller?
Oh.
And like a helicopter, and that's how it
Aw.
maneuvers around.
I like it though. That's kind of cute.
Yeah, that's the problem with the squonk is, according to the story, it's so ugly, but everybody who gets to know the squonk
You're sort of sweet.
becomes very endeared by
you're
it.
kinda
It's like,
cool.
"Aw, it's squonk.
I
It's
wonder
a
if you would
squonk."
go after other squonks who hadn't transformed to their next Pokemon phase at this point.
Oh, could be like the central figure of a squonk cult. And then the
their
squonks
new
gather
squonk
together.
god.
And then, in time, it'll be an army of squonks.
So we need to give him Jim Jones glasses.
That's
as
right.
Well.
Jim Jones glasses. And he's like, listen, squonks, we've been crying all over our ugliness for too long. It's time to take it out on the peoples.
On the peoples.
Take it out on the peoples.
So we have now taken the poor squonk and
The lowly squonk.
transformed him into a demonic cult leader.
With no more self-esteem issues.
Yes.
Right. Well,
I mean, to
in
be
order to be a cult leader,
leader,
you have to
yeah,
be pretty
that's
narcissistic.
true,
So
yeah.
there you have it.
So that's okay. Synopsis of
Let's
what
bring
we,
it back to the center here, people.
of what we just came up with. So did we decide on bat wings or propeller tail?
I think propeller tail, because it is a ridiculous creature to begin with, so it needs an
Okay.
equally ridiculous mode of transportation.
Would it still fly though, just like with no
Yeah.
explanation?
Yeah,
the tail.
propeller tail, like a helicopter.
I thought that just steered it actually. So now I picture it floating, but also propeller tail, very small. It's like this way.
Well,
this
that's
way.
true. It could just like fill with gas,
Oh God.
and then
Maybe it fills with the
Like a
tears.
blimp.
Like it has to be full of those tears to get it on everyone.
Oh, yes.
There you
Okay. So, cult leader Squonk, Jim Jones glasses, propeller tail, hag-like creature now to give it its demonic little flavor, and it will crawl into your chest, to cry acid
Yeah.
onto you, and
it'll
then,
cry on you, and you'll melt.
and then once you've melted into nothingness, then he takes your soul and brings it to the cult,
Yeah, there you go.
and they feast upon your
They
soul.
feast upon your soul.
So,
I like it.
okay, cool.
Squonky.
So Squonk the Damon. Ah, yes.
Squonk approved.
All the Squonk lovers that we've converted last week are now.
Did you just say all the squonk lovers? Because
Yeah, there's
We've-
quite a few.
I take umbrage.
You got to realize that there are Squonk plushies and Squonk T-shirts and Squonk sweatshirts.
I didn't have to realize anything.
Oh, but I've already ordered them, so they'll be at the house.
Ooh, yes.
Girl,
But you already own a Squonk. It's Starry.
And that's true. Starry's pretty squonky,
Yeah.
squonk-like.
she's a potato.
She is.
She is a potato.
She is a baked potato. But
Yes.
all right. Well, Starry unfortunately is not on this list. Although I feel like that should be our last one. Is what would Starry be?
Starry as a cryptid.
Oh,
She is the potato that came to life.
So,
horrifying.
oh God, she kills you with love.
So much love.
But yes, Pipsqueak the Destroyer is our next one.
Oh, Pipsqueak the Destroyer. I believe that once you've added a modifier like the Destroyer, you're dealing with a demonic force.
I agree.
Yeah, it feels demony.
It does. So where would this demon live?
Excellent question. So, I think going with Pipsqueak as the moniker, and this is I'm not casting any dispersions towards this state, but Delaware, being the smallest state in the Union, I believe would be the place where Pipsqueak would exist, because Pipsqueak, of course, would be the diminutive demon. I'd say maybe no larger than this cup.
Oh.
I feel like if it's that small, though, it needs to live in a place with a ton of people. It's not making a lot of headway through stuff.
Oh, no,
so-
I think that gets picked on by all other things, so it has to also come from a place that is, manageable. Think of big fish in a little pond. Think of a little fish in a littler pond.
Oh, no.
And Pipsqueak thinks that it's the Destroyer, but it really only deals with about 4 square acres of
It just haunts a very
It's
specific spot.
It's
Very
like, I am the
specific.
Destroyer.
Maybe. So Delaware doesn't have to pay like tax on anything.
There you
right?
go.
So
See?
maybe that's what Pipsqueak thinks it's destroying is
Right. The tax rate, the millage rate of the
yes, of living, and he's like, I am for the people.
I have destroyed the all.
Well, now I feel like you could definitely get people going to the 4 acres of land that he inhabits to
Right.
meet him.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. No sales tax.
I destroyed it all. Well, what does he look like then? Like, what's happening here?
I picture the little pixies from Harry Potter, if you remember that.
Right.
The little
Yeah,
blue
yeah, yeah.
pixies.
Sure.
I want
also
glowing
like
eyes.
a button-down shirt with a pocket protector with pens, since he's obviously also a tax official.
Yes.
I think he needs glowing demon eyes, though.
And big glowing demon eyes.
Like you can see him at night. You know he's there because the eyes are just like bing, and you're like, oh, thanks.
No sales tax.
Thanks so much, the Destroyer, sir.
He's like, I was.
So he's a small accountant, is what we're
Yes.
saying.
With glowing demon eyes.
With glowing demon eyes.
He's like, I will destroy your local economy.
And he just shows up and he's like,
That is not a deduction.
I mean,
You cannot claim that on your taxes.
he probably makes a good living, honestly. He's
Yeah,
doing
that's
okay
true.
out in his 4 acres of land.
Yes.
right. And of course he knows all the loopholes, so he's making a killing. He's fine.
And he
He's fine. Don't worry about old Pipsqueak.
he is small, but he is mighty. So
Yes.
Give him your QuickBooks.
give him your QuickBooks. So
That's it. That's about as demonic as it comes. He evades the IRS legally.
Legally.
Ooh, every loophole is his. Pipsqueak.
Pipsqueak.
For the people.
Honestly,
Hear my roar.
Pipsqueak 2024. That is
Yeah.
that is what we're going with.
The Secretary of Commerce, Pipsqueak, the Destroyer.
Oh, JT is just shaking his head like, why did I let this happen?
We gotta love Pipsqueak.
Yeah, honestly.
You've made him sound so cute, though, with the voice. Like, so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd be so mad if you called him cute.
Aw.
He's like, I take down everything. I'm adding 6% to your income tax.
Just for you.
Thanks, Pipsqueak the Destroyer.
And that's what happens when you cross him, is that he adds.
Yeah, he adds taxes to your...
Okay, so don't get on the wrong side if you visit his 4 acres.
So if you have all these unexplained hikes in your taxes, it's Pipsqueak. He's coming for you. In the only way he knows how, because he doesn't have dominion over anything else than percentage rates and
So he's like a demonic fae almost, is
right.
what we have.
That's fair.
Have distinguished Pipsqueak the Destroyer as. Now, does he live in like a little like shoe, or like what does he live in?
Oh, that's good. He lives in a shoebox full of receipts.
Yeah, that makes... That is the only way.
Yeah.
A filing cabinet.
He basically makes a nest out of your receipts that you turn in for deductions.
Wow, he's living his best life. That's what he loves.
Yeah,
If
that's
you
right.
want him to go through your receipts, you have to make some sort of gift to be worthy.
That's what you
of
do.
his-
Is you just put a box of receipts on your back porch, and he will nestle there and then serve your purposes, your nefarious tax purposes. And it's like,
I'll give you tax shelter. Cayman Islands.
the Cayman Islands.
And he eats $2 bills. That's
that explains it. That explains so much. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, you can trap him by putting a $2 bill, out under a big box.
oh yes,
Because remember, he's only this tall.
yeah,
Little.
not hard to capture.
Not hard to capture. And once you captured him, you can ask for standardized deductions, some
Made up write-offs.
Made-up write-offs,
That would
yeah,
never really fly, but he
right.
has the ins.
He has
and
the
loops.
ins. Yeah, he knows how to do it. And if all else fails, you just ask him to file your taxes for you.
It's
I
true.
feel like you'd need a bigger gift for him if he was going to file your
a
whole
money
No, you
tree.
capture him.
You have to give him a money tree.
Okay.
It's kind of like the leprechaun. You capture a leprechaun, you get a pot of gold. You capture the Pipsqueak, you get your taxes filed.
I would rather the taxes filed, honestly.
Yeah.
Screw the pot of gold. File my taxes, please. Every loophole. Come on.
Every
All the
loophole.
write-offs, please. Pipsqueak the Destroyer. Help me out here.
And he will.
And he will.
Yo Serenity said that she loves how unhinged this is.
Absolutely.
This is not our normal fare, but we are enjoying it.
Yes.
And that she loves Pipsqueak the Destroyer. Don't let the cuteness deceive you, otherwise bam, more taxes in the bank account.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Respect Pipsqueak,
And
the
that's
Destroyer.
why he's the Destroyer.
Oh, yeah.
Because he will destroy you.
He'll destroy your 401k.
That Cayman Islands account,
Yeah,
government
boom.
knows about it now. Pipsqueak had his hand in it.
Pipsqueak.
Wow. So
Yeah, unhinged is a good word for this
that
game.
is a good word. All right. Next one is a twofer. Oogity and boogity.
Oh, oogity and
You
boogity.
seem like you have a lot of stories popping up in your head with oogity and
Because this man says oogity boogity often.
Yes, long before the podcast came along, I have used oogity boogity to decry great many haunted and scary things, which makes it a cryptid in my book.
Okay.
2 cryptids, apparently.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they are inseparable.
It's a yin and yang kind of thing.
Exactly.
Day and night.
You need boogity to come along with oogity. Oogity might be able to make it on its own, but boogity is right there always, on oogity's tail. So I would say that oogity boogity is the kind of a creature of shadows that loves to just jump out and scare you for no good reason. Literally, the bumps in the night literally when you're like walking alone in some spooky place and you just have that sensation that something's coming up behind you and it's going to get you. And if you don't turn around and you look right away, it's going to get you. And then you spin around and there's nothing there. It's Oogity and Boogity who are laughing at you. They're kind of inspiring you to be afraid, but then laughing because there's nothing to be afraid of. Oogity Boogity are a prankster duo of cryptids.
I feel like they would have a power. You ever have an instance where all the hair stands up on your arm or the back of your neck? They are able to like go like
instantly
this,
create that.
and it's instant like goose flesh.
Right.
You're like, whoa, and it's them.
I
Like,
just got
like
Oogity
this,
Boogity.
and you're like, whoa, I got the oogity and the boogity.
Oogity and the
Although
Boogity.
over time it's come to pass where it's not oogity and boogity, it's just oogity boogity.
Right.
Even though it's two entities, we've forgotten as time has passed.
Right. I think Oogity is more about the feeling of unease, that kind of wheeziness. So like you can feel Oogity. Sometimes you eat the wrong thing and like, oh, a little Oogity. But Boogity is more the blah, kind of like I'm immediately afraid.
So it's a
sort of
nauseous
thing.
fear because I don't want it.
Well, it's dread. It's that ebbing
Okay.
dread. But Boogity is like Boogity, and so now you're like, oh, I feel like, oh no. So the dread that comes before the scare, they go together.
I see.
Oogity is dread and Boogity is the scare. But because they conspire together, there's nothing really there, and they're just doing it to laugh at you.
For the lulls.
Yeah, just doing it for the lulls.
So they're
and so
the-
probably many cryptids and many ghost stories are actually just Oogity and Boogity playing their little tricks.
Oh, so we've had spin-off stories just because of them. It was just them for many of these cryptids, but we're like, I know what it is. Skronk.
So they're like every teen bully in a 90s movie.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's probably what they look like. 90s era teen bullies.
Yes.
know.
Specifically the ones from Hocus Pocus is what I picture.
There you go. If you can picture a 90s era film or TV bully, there you go. They kind of
Exactly.
That's their laugh.
They're tricksters.
You hear it late at night.
Absolutely, yes.
But there's always one that's a little bit smarter who's
Right.
the leader. That's Oogity.
Oogity.
Oogity,
Oogity
and
is
then-
more about
Sure.
the planning stage.
Boogety's there for the
And Boogety's there to
Right.
push you over.
Yeah, Boogity is the loafing,
Right.
bumbling
The heavy.
idiot. Yeah.
like a kick in the stomach.
Right.
Yes.
That's where you get that pit in the
Ooh,
stomach.
yeah,
Ooh,
that
ooh. That something doesn't feel right.
Right.
It's boogity.
There you go. Yeah,
No.
they're often found in abandoned places. They're often found in old, worn down.
That place your mom said
buildings.
don't go to.
Yeah, that place that all
but
the
of
kids
course
are
you
like,
went.
you can't go there.
You
And
straight
it's
went
like,
there.
All right, that's where you'll
90s.
find Oogity and Boogity.
Now, how do you think that we first learned about Oogity and Boogity? What do you think the origin story is for Oogity
well,
and Boogity?
I would say that it was an esteemed paranormal investigator who did a deep dive in several instances of just absolute sheer terror that proved to be nothing. And when people kept coming up with the same kind of sensations in the same area, he decided that he would take a deep dive look at it. And when he did, he, of course, uncovered that there was indeed this kind of two-part scenario that seemed to be happening to everyone. And he was the first one to realize that it was Oogity and Boogity.
It was just kind of like a blanket thing. Did you guys ever hear about the serial killer? But it was just a woman who worked in the labs and she was infecting all the swabs they had used.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that's what Oogity and Boogity is. You think it's all this different stuff, but it's just like one source that looks like it could be all these things.
Wow.
There you go.
If not one of the most powerful cryptids.
No,
on
yeah,
the face of the earth.
absolutely.
Seems like they could be anywhere.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not one specific location that they haunt.
Well,
It's
and that's scary
everything.
because
Right.
maybe there are many Oogity Boogities. Maybe, they just kind of form wherever there is a whisper of something creepy and scary, a new Oogity and Boogity appear and show up.
Wow.
They are evoked by the sense of dread that an abandoned or scary place projects.
This made-up cryptid's freaking me out. So I don't like it.
I know this one's very
A little darker.
Yeah.
All right, we're making a short film, Oogity Boogity.
Oogity and Boogity. Ooh, yes. And you never know if that person standing next to you could be Oogity
or Boogity.
or Boogity.
That's right.
Coming this fall.
Coming
Yes.
this fall.
Wait, it is fall. Coming this winter.
Winter is coming. No, wait, we can't
No,
say
we
that
can't
either.
say
No. Winter is the best time to meet Oogity and Boogity.
That's right. There's already a chill in the air. Oh, is it Oogity or is it the weather? I can't tell.
So our last one that was sent in is Toodly Doo.
Toodly doo.
Toodly do.
Toodly Doo.
Toodly doo.
And you have to say it like that. Otherwise, it doesn't sound right.
Toodly doo.
Toodly do.
Yeah.
So it can't be like, hey, have you heard of toodly do? That's not the same thing.
No. It has to be said like a ridiculous farce play, like
Right.
British farce.
It's obviously the cousin of Tweedledee and Tweedledum is Toodly doo.
It's kind of they got rid of that cousin. That's a black sheep of the family. Let's
Well,
be
you
honest.
figure Tweedledee and Tweedledum are not particularly friendly. You don't want to hang out with those two. So Tweedledee always just wants to hang out and have pettifours. Tweedledee.
Toodly do.
Toodly
Toodly
do.
do. Toodly do.
We have a background story to why this name came in.
That the person provided for us?
Yes,
Oh,
Ashley
perfect.
Warner came up with this one.
Bear junkie president.
Yes. So she said, I live in Toledo and sometimes locals call it Toodly Doo. And I've always thought
Wow.
that sounded like the name of a methed out demon. Which,
Methed out.
Method acting demon.
well, that was a typo.
Brilliant, thank you.
That was a typo. I'm just reading it. Anyways, a methed out demon, which is very on brand for the residents of my city. I can agree with that. Toledo is unhinged, but
Have we been to Toledo?
We have. We had a great sandwich.
We drove through it, and I had the best French dip of your life. Actually, it was your French dip that I ate.
Wait a minute, you're the bunky.
you're the Boonky Bandit.
Bunky bandit.
I'm surrounded by them.
It was pre-trash.
Exactly.
No, we were driving from D.C. to Chicago, and we stopped there for lunch, and that's the only time I've been there. But
Excellent.
French dip
French
one
dip.
time.
Okay, so
But we didn't see the toodly-doo?
the Toodly
The
Doo.
toodly-doo.
The Toodly Doo.
So it has to live in Toledo, which
There
is
you
a
go.
scary cryptid.
That's well, Midwestern cryptids are
A
ferocious
nightmare.
and nightmarish, and I could see the Toodly Doo kind of being evoked whenever anyone shows up to a place and mispronounces the local names. For instance, we have a Louisville Road that everyone calls Louisville Road, and that's just the way it goes. I think more people call it Louisville than Louisville, but it's actually Louisville.
I call it Louisville.
Houston Street.
Louisville.
Everyone calls it Houston Street, but it's actually Houston Street.
Somebody
Yes.
told me recently
So-
that Habersham is actually Habersham.
Yeah, Habersham.
Nah.
But like I said, could you imagine all the place, everybody, everywhere that is old school local knows all the names that everyone murders and
This thing
butchers.
can't be everywhere at once. This is a very
No,
wide
it's evoked.
spread.
It's evoked. You mispronounce. Actually, it's not evoked when people mispronounce. It's evoked when people correct the mispronunciation.
Oh.
When people go, well, actually.
There's a actually demon out there. I'm certain of it.
Well, it's
yes.
the Toodly Doo.
Yeah.
The Toodly Doo is the actually demon.
You gotta actually.
Well, actually,
thank you for
it's
helping.
pronounced Toledo, and it's like
It's not Toledo.
Tomato.
Toodly Doo.
It's just this curmudgeon-y demon that is just waiting to correct you on your grammar.
It could be a witch. Toodly Doo, Toodly Doo.
I feel like I've envisioned it showing up in the back of your car as two people are mispronouncing things driving around. Like that's where
yes.
it always shows up. It's got to be the back seat of the car,
Right.
and it'll be like, well, actually.
Take a left on Louisville Road.
That's exactly what it is. It's the curmudgeon-y cryptid that is just constantly there to belittle you and fact-check you.
Oh, that's it.
like-
It's the fact-checking
man.
demon.
It's like, actually, that wasn't created until 1963.
Oh no.
Oh no, its responsibilities have expanded.
That's a lot
now
of
it just
responsibility.
now it just knows everything.
It is the entire wealth of the internet, but only
Oh,
the
but only the
accurate-
snarky version.
It is.
It's the demon of snark.
It's the trolling commenters. Those are all toodly-doos.
That's it, toodly-doos. Maybe toodly-doos possess us and cause us to be the snarky,
Interesting.
correcting
So when
person.
we say, well, actually, it's the toodly-doo.
The toodly-doo's
behind
like,
you, like, well, actually, and you're like, well, actually, God, that came out of me.
Oh, God.
Did I well actually you?
Well, don't do it, but you've been possessed already.
Right. It's very hard to exercise that demon.
It's very true. It's very true.
It lives in all
Because,
of us, perhaps.
he rewards you with smug self-satisfaction.
Some people just have stronger toodly-doos.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Some toodly-doo has a strong hold on you.
So it's like a gland, is what you're saying. I'm sorry. I will actually do 3 times today. My toodly-doo gland is just acting up today.
Oh, must it?
I must get my gua sha and cleanse myself.
Well, actually, toodly-doo.
Let me go to my squonk altar. Oh, mighty squonk. Cleanse me of this toodly-doo.
And he just propels down. He's like,
I do think he'd be loud. I think he'd be really loud.
I can't imagine he makes any noises that are compelling because they're only things like oh God, we've lost all the listeners from these noises.
They're like, stop.
They're like, I'm done with this. Unsubscribe.
You didn't have to mic them. They're just squonking for a half hour.
It's called art.
I'd love to see the auto captions on this one.
Oh God.
YouTube's like,
Squonk?
Squonk?
That can't be right.
Tootly-do?
Toodly-doo. Toodly-doo. Yeah, we went a long way from our original inception of Toodly-doo.
It's way more
It's Toodly-doo.
widespread than Toledo.
Yeah, I just
It
see it because Toodly-doo sounds like a tea sipping, like, oh, Toodly-doo.
Toodly-doo,
Yeah.
an afternoon
But
tea
now it's
for
like,
me and you.
Well, so toodly-do, to wrap that up, I guess, originated in Toledo.
Right.
But then
was there meth involved here?
yes, and then it spawned from the meth.
Okay.
And so there was a
It's
chemical reaction.
a mix between, demonic presence and methamphetamines. Gotcha.
Well, it's like when you get a gremlin wet or, you feed it after midnight and it grows those little blobs on its back that explode into gremlins.
That's so very graphic, but yes, I
Well,
got it.
is.
I'm on it.
Yes, so that's exactly how the Toodly-Doo spawns. Is
Oh,
it
every
got
time-
it every time it
yeah.
takes the meth from
Gotcha.
Toledo specifically, then
Well, you know that Toledo meth.
I feel like Toledo's taking a beating in this
No,
episode.
they have the best meth in the states.
Toledo, we have nothing but respect for you.
this is all
Sorry.
hypothetical.
It's-
We love your
We're-
sandwiches.
Yes, we love your sandwiches. Great sandwiches.
We have a good amount of Toledo followers. Just a heads up.
Well, listen, this is all hypothetical. This is joke. This
This is
Don't
joke.
make it up for it.
Well, actually,
Toledo is a wonderful
actually-
sword, by the way. Lovely made Toledo steel. So yes, okay, that's great.
yes.
I guess that's Spain. Sorry.
Let's just have 30 seconds of just talking
Praising-
so good
Yeah.
about Toledo. Go.
yes,
Oh.
Toledo, you are in Ohio.
You're so close to Canada.
we love you, Toledo. Keep doing that Toledo-y thing.
Be as
Yes.
Toledo can be.
Yes. You are totally Toledo.
Oh, wow. They should really
When
pick
I
that
was
one
young,
up.
I did not suppose that Toledos were the same as torpedoes. That was not something that happened when I was a child. I didn't think people fired Toledos out of ships. That was,
That's a torpedo.
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
But you should be honored that you got
Now.
your own cryptid.
yes,
and-
now you
and-
have a Toledo-doo, a
Toodly-doo.
Toodly-doo. A Toodly-doo.
And you have Ashley Werner, which
Yeah.
a great addition to your
That tells us
town.
everything we need to know. It's a great town if it produces Ashley Warners.
Absolutely.
Did you know Savannah and Hilton Head do an aggressive billboard campaign in Ohio?
No.
Aggressive. That's why when I used to shoot elopements, we had a ton of Ohio people. A lot of them moved to Hilton Head. They retire here. So apparently Ohio's just covered in billboards about Savannah and Hilton Head.
That's so
you go.
interesting.
Way to go visit Savannah.
Yeah, go to Savannah.
They're like, it's cold there. They'd love it here.
Yeah.
Right, that's true.
Still bored.
I would imagine that that appealing to snowbirds in any southern destination place, you're like, it's warm here.
And that's all you need, right?
Snowbird is also a really good cryptid.
That would be a great cryptid. The snowbird.
The snowbird.
Caw.
The second.
They're all Pokemon to you, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. The first sign of snow, they suddenly sprout wings and they fly down to the south to take up our housing.
Right.
It's,
Driving up real estate
that
prices.
one's just going on the live stream. I'm so sorry.
You're making a lot of editing for me.
You shouldn't have let us have this much rain. It's. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to this. If you've made it this far, good on you.
Well done.
Well done. You've made
I barely
it.
made it this long.
But yes, if you would like us to do more improv-y fun nonsense like this, to have a palate cleanser from all the deep theory that we do,
Swear.
let
See,
us
we
know.
can have fun.
We can. We're fun. We're fun.
Silence.
It's not all death and mayhem and horror and sadness and sorrow.
But if you want to see more of these, let us know. And maybe next time we'll open it up to the public so that we can hear some of your thoughts of what you would think a fun cryptid or demon would
Absolutely.
be.
This was fun.
Yes. But thank you guys again. And thank you, Megan, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was amazing.
Yes. We'll always bring Megan on for the improv-y stuff because she enjoys this. This is more in her wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's true.
Than the spooky. But yes. So thank you guys again. If you haven't already considered becoming a para junkie, definitely join us if you would like to over on Patreon. Also, you can follow us on all social media platforms, including X, which we have now, which formerly Twitter. It is brand spanking new,
The
as of a
app
few
formerly
days.
known as Twitter.
Yes.
Tweets.
So that is
So do we post X's now?
every once in a while. We're trying to figure it out.
No, I mean, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's called X's.
Instead of tweets?
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. You're sending.
That's weird because now you're like, last night I sent out a bunch of late night X's.
Oh,
It's
hey,
like,
I just posted my ex.
I posted my X. It's like, what? Wait, what?
Maybe they should be called X
But you
letters.
said she ate your hair.
That's a squonk.
That is the squonk. Oh God, poor squonk. We also love squonks, so don't let that fool you. But anywho, thank you guys. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all. Oh God.
All right. That was awesome.
Did anybody
Got
stay
Ghost
with
Mail,
us?
Ghostmail?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We had a bunch of people. And we're still live.
Okay.
We are still live.
Yep.
Ghostmail.
Serenity said death, mayhem, and 100% fun.
Thank you. You
Michaela
appreciate.
Gowan said if you want the oogity and then you get the boogity, it's non-negotiable and vice versa, package D.
Nice. Yeah, it's a contract writer.
Eni's here.
Hey.
Yep. And Nikki Youngsma is here. Oh, yeah. We got some people here.
Noise.
All right. Maddie, when you get the ghost mail up, we'll go ahead and bust it up.
Alrighty.
So, are you familiar with ghost mail episodes? Basically, fans send in their personal ghost stories.
Oh, I
Yeah.
have. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about that a little bit.
All right. Sounds good.
All
Maddie,
right.
got it up?
Yep.
Okay, just same quick couple announcements. This is actually going to be Tuesday's episode. The one we just filmed is Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, same ads and all of that stuff.
Okay.
So,
All right, here we
Empanada
go.
Loca
And
opens this
introduce-
Friday.
Introduce
Yes.
Megan as if no one knows who she is.
Okay.
All right. Everybody ready? Here we go. And go for it.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And today we have Megan Jones.
Megan Jones.
Ta-da! Yes, this is Megan, Chris's wife, and she is here to join us for today's Ghost Mail episode. Ooh.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, Megan's so excited to be here for this. Megan loves spooky things.
It's not true.
Well, and of course we had to bring her and put her into the room with creepy things.
I don't like her, and I wish I had sat somewhere else.
Well, you get to sit right next to her
Oh,
for the
she's-
entire
She's
time.
staring through the back of my head.
She does that.
Yeah, that's her thing.
But yes, so if you didn't realize, Chris is a very spooky person, and
Spookity,
so we've told multiple stories about Megan not enjoying Chris's various spooky activities. Actually, Megan, you want to, real quick before we get into the ghost mail, do you want to tell the story of how you met Chris?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So the day we met, I invited him to play some board games, and we played some board games, and he left very quickly. He's like, I must go. And he stood up and he whooshed out, and we're like, that was weird. And that night, me and some friends were walking to a party, and we decided to cut across Colonial Park Cemetery. We're like, it'll be quicker, just cut across. So we cut across the cemetery. It's twilight, like the sun's going down. They're about to close it, and we get to the other side, and there's Chris Susi back to the cemetery, hands behind his back in his long black trench coat that he was known for at the time. And we're like, isn't that guy? Yes, it was him. And we're like, what are you doing here? Turns out he'd been locked out of his apartment, so he walked us to this party. I was in college at the time. So we walked to the party, but we stopped every 3 houses, and he told us a ghost story about that house, which, of course, it was not about that specific house. We were taking a weird path. But he told us ghost stories all the way to the party. And when we got to the party, imagine the typical, like, red cup party. But by the end, we were all just sitting in a circle while he's telling us ghost stories. And we're like, tell us more. What is this? And at the end, he made one man cry because that guy, oh yeah, the great party. The guy he was like, I get little piles of dirt in my house. I sweep them up, but there's always little piles of dirt all around. And Chris looks him in the face and goes, oh no. And so this dude's crying, and we're like, we have to go now. And so we actually got a ride back to town with Chris. And that was the first day we met.
That's incredible.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yes. Well, you have a habit of traumatizing people with your stories. I don't know.
Yes. Well, it's funny because someone recently posted a podcast where they
Gabby
were
Turner, right?
retelling
Yeah.
the story from when she was at a summer camp where I was teaching a storytelling like class in the camp, and she told the traumatizing tale of.
She's a witch now, so she's fine. But it's
she's protected.
Her name's Gabby Turner. She lives in Savannah, and she does a lot of the witch workshops around town. But she's fine.
She's fine. Everything's fine.
But I just thought that was so funny. Eni actually posted the podcast in the fan base group.
Yeah, Eni sent it to me and was like, "I think you had a hand in this."
Yes.
Like, I did. You're right.
I love that. That's hilarious. Well, now that you got to have one of Megan's ghost mails, I guess, let's go ahead and dive right on in. But first, we do want to thank a couple of our sponsors. So we do want to thank Cosmic Corner for sponsoring today. They are a local metaphysical shop here in Savannah. So if you need any witchy goods, you can definitely buy those from this lovely group of people. They also have a website, so if you don't live in Savannah, you can still support them. It's shopcosmiccorner.com, and they are a queer-owned business. They're absolutely fabulous people. They are an interfaith shop, so they have a multitude of different stuff that is outside of just, like pagan witchcraft sort of stuff. They have lots of goodies. So if you are inclined to buying metaphysical goods, check them out. Also, we want to thank Savannah Repertory Theater for sponsoring us as well. They wanted to promote their upcoming production of Empanada Loca, which when this is airing, it should be coming up. Is this airing this Tuesday? Okay,
It'll be
cool.
this Friday.
Yeah, this Friday.
This coming Friday, the 7th.
The 7th. So it's going to be the 7th through the 10th, and then it's going to be the 14th through the 17th of September. So if you're in the Savannah area during those times, definitely come check it out. It's a play that is loosely based on Sweeney Todd, if you will.
Inspired, I suppose.
Inspired.
Yes.
But yeah, it's going to be a really great way to kick off your spooky season officially. I know
Absolutely.
for us, it's Halloween all year long, but it's, officially spooky season. And so it's going to be a fantastic production. The set's beautiful. The actor is really awesome, very talented. So it's just going to be a good time all around.
It should be mentioned that it's a one-woman show.
It is. It's a
one
one-woman show.
And it's Savannah Rep puts on phenomenal shows. Mm-hmm. By all means, go and check it out.
Yes. So, support your local professional theater, y'all. It's a good time. So, But with that, we do want to go ahead and dive right on in. So let's start out with this first ghost mail titled "A Shadow Man Wanted to Send This In."
Mm-hmm.
I love that. All right, so this comes from Maria Cruz. Hello again. I hope you all are doing well. I'm a parajunkie now. Yay, thank you, Maria, for becoming a parajunkie. I had originally wanted to send in a different story. It was already typed up, and I was going to send it instead of this one. It wasn't of my own choosing to send you this one instead. Maria, are you okay? Oh, God. Before I move on to that, I have included some answers to your question from my last ghost mail titled "My Shadow Friend" at the very end. Which I do remember, the shadow friend one, which
Right.
we get a lot of shadow people sort of mail. But getting back to the point, I was going to send a ghost mail that included the paranormal experiences I dealt with from age 13 to 22. It was a steady interaction with a few spirits that was the precursor to my shadow friend. Well, something in my house this morning was clearly not okay with that. To give more information, I live in a tiny home in the middle of the woods in a small town in South Carolina. My husband and I have 7 acres, but we only have made an acre or 2 cleared. When I came to his house the very first time, I could sense there was just something off about the land. There's this constant sensation of being watched. Swell. My husband doesn't agree, but he's not exactly someone who believes in the paranormal. And this is pretty long, but details matter. I agree. So, since moving in here, I have seen several spirits and other beings, not sure what else to call what I saw. I never felt threatened by any of them, and they've been fairly quiet. We recently expanded our tiny house. It was originally a 12-foot by 24-foot home. Now it's a 24-foot by 24-foot. And the recently added expansion is not completely finished yet, but we have already moved our things into the space, and we are actively using it. My husband has built our house by himself, so living in construction has become normal. I woke up this morning and began getting ready for work, as one does. When I turned off my bedroom light, I could see someone sitting in the recliner in our bedroom.
Oof.
There was enough light coming from the kitchen for me to make out a figure. I didn't think anything of it and continued my morning. While continuing to walk, I heard "turn around" in this weird gravelly voice in my head. As I mentioned in my last ghost mail, seeing spirits and hearing them in my head is just so normal for me now that I don't usually freak out over experiences anymore. I ignored the voice and continued my morning and started making my latte. I began having vivid flashbacks, I think is what you could consider it, of a series of dreams I had years ago. The images began cycling through over and over. My ears began ringing very loudly, but I just continued with my latte. Ringing in my ears is normal for me when I can feel that there is a presence near me. As I was putting my creamer and iced coffee back into the fridge, the ringing became so loud it was almost disorienting. I slammed the fridge door shut and loudly shouted, "What? What is so important at 8:30 in the morning that you are throwing a temper tantrum?" Normally, I don't react this way with spirits, but the ringing was just a bit of an overkill in my opinion. I walked into the bedroom and didn't see anything, but I could feel something in the room with me. "Now, you don't even want to stand here and speak to me?" I asked as I walked back out of the room. When you walk out of our bedroom, you walk into the back part of the kitchen, and if you turn right, the office is there. I walked out, turning left, and paused to text my friend Nick back. As I looked at my phone, I could see movement out of the corner of my eye. I slowly looked over to the bedroom entryway and saw a head and shoulders of a shadow figure hanging upside down looking at me. Okay.
I don't like that at all.
No.
Now, I chose the "not today" thought process and walked into the kitchen. 8:30 a.m. was just too early for this type of experience, LOL. The second I reached the counter, all I could hear in that same voice was "office, office, go to office." Standing in my kitchen, I began the internal debate of, is this a good idea? The flashes of the dreams began again with the same ringing. To avoid the ringing growing loud as hell again, I decided to walk into the office. The office is my husband's. It houses all of his video game consoles, games, DVDs, and our computers. I used my MacBook to type my stories for you guys, so I needed to grab it anyway before heading to work. I was standing in the office and asked, well, what is it? I'm in the office. I stood there in anticipation for what felt like forever, but in reality was probably 2 minutes. Again, in my head, I heard office, right, and then got flashes of the dreams. I picked up my MacBook and turned around to walk back out. Now, as I mentioned, this part of the house is still in construction. Our house looks like a log cabin, so our walls consist of wooden planks. The wall of the office that faces into the bedroom is only half completed. As I turned, I saw the shadowy figure standing there, only from the shoulders up, and the gap in the wall. So here I am, typing this out for you guys, because if this was so important to this being that I share these dreams, then I guess I'm going to do that. I do think it is weird that I was pushed so heavily to share dreams and not an actual experience, so here we go. My grandmother passed away on July 11th, 2020. She was the light of my life. She was a sweet lady, your average Southern Christian woman with a little bit of a crazy side. I was never honest with her about my own religious beliefs. That bit is important. She was closed-minded in the sense of anything outside Christianity was bad. The gays were bad, tattoos were bad, specifically on women. I was a goth kid growing up, covered in piercings and eventually tattoos, and she loved me regardless, and I never held any of that against her. When I was 21, she began declining with Alzheimer's, and I didn't know how to cope with her not knowing who I was. So I stopped visiting and couldn't bring myself to see her on her deathbed. I've never lost anyone before, so it was a very new experience for me. About a week or so after her death, I had some very weird and intense dreams. In the first dream, I was standing in line at a funeral home to see her body. The funeral director said that we would each get a few minutes alone with her due to COVID or something along those lines. A bell would ring when your time would begin, and when you were halfway through, and when it was over. The first bell rang, and I walked into the room. Everything was beige. Her casket was a beautiful cherry wood with gold hardware. The silence was eerie, and the air felt thick and tense. As I looked down on her in her casket, she looked the same as she always had. Her hair was curled the way she liked it. Her makeup was perfect. She was wearing pastels, which were her favorite. The second bell rings, and the whole energy of the room shifts. Her eyes fly open, revealing solid white pits that weren't solid white eyeballs. It was like two white holes. Her voice was hers, but there was an underlying tone that there was something deeper. She raised out of her coffin and grabbed my shoulders as she continued climbing out. I know, JT's freaking out. I know now you are a daughter of Satan himself. You're going to go to hell, you know, she said. I shoved her off and began scrambling away from her. She was on the ground, crouched unnaturally in front of me. You're wanted at home. You're home in hell, she said. There was a brief pause of silence. I was trying to wrap my mind around what I was looking at, who I was looking at. Come home, come home, come home, she began screaming. I was frozen to the ground. I couldn't move. Even breathing felt hard. The third bell rang and everything was back to normal. She was in her casket, and I was on the floor shaking. When I woke up from the dream, I didn't understand what she was saying to me. Obviously, I knew what she said, but its meaning made no sense to me. I've always felt more at home, if you will, with the spookier side of life. With this taking place after my last Ghostmail, I had fully accepted working with Lucifer and embracing that side of my life. I was embracing the side of myself I had shoved away for so long. So Lucifer was very important to me then and still is now. I am a heavily tattooed individual, and I was in the process of designing a full stomach and chest piece. I decided to get the sigil of Lucifer in the center of my chest piece. I thought long and hard about it, and I felt as if it was the correct thing to do for myself. And to this day, I still stand by that. This is relevant for the next dream, mind you. I had gotten the tattoo yet at the same time. I hadn't gotten the tattoo yet at the time of dream 2. The second dream occurred a few days later, and I was feeling just as intense. I was in a building I didn't recognize. The walls were very dark, and the room was empty. I was standing there with my friend Nick and several other people I didn't recognize. At least not yet. I was under the impression we were in a paranormal investigation and we were waiting on responses. I stood there looking around the room and noticed a very tall figure in the corner. This figure was approximately 7 feet tall with gray skin. The skin wasn't like alien gray, but more of a deceased sort of gray. It had long black hair and random chunks on its head, a thicker belly area, and was naked. I remember grabbing Nick's hand and asking him if he saw it. Of course, he didn't see anything, which was unnerving. The creature began circling the room. The other people there seemed to be completely oblivious to it. I began shaking and explaining what it looks like to Nick. The creature then began speaking. "They can't see me, just you." It continued stalking around the room. I closed my eyes and began taking deep breaths. Overreacting in a situation is never good. I wanted to handle the experience as calmly as I could for the safety of everyone else there. "Don't ignore me, Marked One," it said. The voice was deep and clear and sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. When I opened my eyes, I saw it standing there in front of me. I was able to get a better view of its face. It had deeper set eyes that looked human, a larger nose, a thicker bottom lip with a thinner one on top. His features were pale gray and a deeper gray. It took its long bony finger with its gray skin drooping off of it and pointed at my chest. Its long nail traced the sigil into my skin and made direct eye contact. "You need to know your place, Marked One. Home is waiting for you." I squeezed Nick's hand tighter and Nick asked, "What's wrong?" As I turn to look at him, the creature is standing right behind him. "I can take him, you know," the creature says. "I could make him see me, Marked One. I could take him from you." I placed my hands on each side of Nick's face and began crying and saying, "Please just look at me, only me, don't look away." I felt absolutely helpless. The creature then says, "Learn of your place in hell, Marked One," and I woke up. Nick has been my best friend for the last 16 years. We are very connected through the paranormal. For example, whenever we would get into an argument and stop speaking, I would always see tons of suns and moons. The sun and moon are essentially the symbols of our friendship. I would also see him in dreams and would hear different spirits say his name. He would always end up calling me and telling me he heard someone scream my name at him and could never see any sort of spirit along with it. We have even had the same dreams and have had experiences together. I really think the dreams were messages, and the creature in the second dream had been aware of my connection with Nick. I didn't end up meeting the other people that were in the dream. They were starting a satanic church in the area. I formed a good relationship with them until one night when we were using the Ouija board after a sermon. The board refused to talk to anyone but me. I'm 100% certain that no one was moving the planchette for their own benefit. The spirit claimed to be someone called Samael. Samael, thank you. It referenced 666 multiple times and would talk of a Marked One. When I tell you I saw my soul leave my body when it said Marked One. Guys, I didn't tell anyone about that except for Nick, and he doesn't know these people. I stopped going to the sermons after that, not because of the experiences or the board, but after that night, I really felt as though I saw the preacher's true self, and I didn't want to be associated with someone like him. I felt as though he saw me as some sort of sign from the universe, and I just wasn't feeling it. I've seen several different claims as to who Samael could be. I've seen that he is listed as the main angel of death and also listed as the king of the demons. I did end up getting the sigil tattoo a few days after Dream 2. I haven't been referred to as the Marked One in any dreams or experiences since then. As I said in the beginning, I really had no intention of sending this particular set of dreams/experiences in. However, the shadow figure was pretty intense about it, so why not? I typed this while sitting at work, and when I got home, I read it out loud in my house. I read aloud to catch grammar errors, but I wanted the shadow to know I was serious about sending this to you guys. Again, I don't really understand why it wanted me to send this so badly. The shadow figure lingered around my house the rest of the night, and when I woke up the morning, he was still there. I made sure I said, I'm sending it today as I was leaving the house. I'm curious to see what you guys think because I have no idea what to even think about this shadow being so adamant. Well, goodness, Maria. That is a lot.
That is a lot. And there's a lot of interesting
parts of that for
facets
sure.
to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yes, I have thoughts regarding it. But let's talk to Megan, who is.
I have thoughts. Move out of your house. Move out of your house. It's time to move. Get out of there. Shadow people. Do you think it would follow her if she moved?
Probably.
I think it came with her. I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
hers.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh no.
I think, there's a lot to unpack with this that are layers of going all the way to things that I don't think you could even control if you wanted to. If you're in the mindset of believing in deities outside of the Christian facet, then you're probably already familiar with the fact that you can have matron or patron deities. And from what it seems like is that your patron deity might be Lucifer in the way of like, you didn't get an option in that, say, it's just something that's going to eventually happen and you're going to be forced into that relationship. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you see it, that can come with a lot of really horrifying things because it depending on the different deities that you work with, they have different signs of showing you things. And also with Lucifer specifically, from my understanding of it, is that it comes with a lot of other entities as well, like his
Legion.
That's a better word for it. I was like, I don't want to say minions, but it's like his lesser entities, if you will, which could very have well been what the shadow person was, especially if you hadn't seen it prior to, this intense situation of being like, hey, write this out. You need to understand this. But what really leads me to believe that it was a patron deity sort of situation is the fact that in these streams you're being referred to as the marked one. And a lot of times with these darker deities, it comes with very nightmares or things like that. You see with the Morrigan, the Morrigan's notorious for giving you horrific nightmares and things like
Absolutely.
that.
When it says the marked one, is it more about the tattoos or it's more about the soul?
The interesting thing about it is how it plays out, because it plays out prior to the marking, and that the dream stopped once you took on a marking, which in certain ways, what I see is basically a story of a free agent, you being the free agent. You have a pantheon of figures vying for you. It was, you chose the mark of Lucifer and you chose Lucifer as your patron. And I think that was a part of all that's going for it. But it sounds like there was many looking for your patronage, looking for you to accept their patronage. The fact that it was before the marking suggests that it might have been Samael asking for you to take on him. Mm-hmm. It could have been anything. And we go back to your grandmother. And the interesting thing about the grandmother experience dream is that you obviously came from a world where there was open discussion about heaven, hell, demons, devils, things of that nature. And what happens is it's a manifestation. You're dealing with Christian ideology versus your own sensibility. You don't get to shake off what was created in those other ideas. You don't get to shake off what Lucifer means to them. You don't get to shake off what evil or demons are to the people who raised you or gave you any insight to that. And since you were exposed to it, that means those entities existed in that form, in the form of the dark and the evil and hell and all those things. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you were exposed to the belief structure that allows those things to be dark and devious and destructive, you are easily a target of that brand of being. Lucifer is not. If you're following through with pagan ideals and if you're following through with even like how the Church of Satan categorizes these things, he does not fulfill the role that has been put upon him through the faith structure. But that doesn't mean that that role doesn't exist and isn't being fulfilled
Right.
in that namesake, that there is a Lucifer that registers, as the devil, as the fallen morning star, as the entity that everyone recognizes almost immediately as Satan. So because that entity exists in the minds and hearts and beliefs of others, it exists in the world, and you're going to have to deal with it. And as you start making progress towards your faith or your belief, you're going to have to find the pieces of you that harbor or hold pieces of that, the remnants of that version of Lucifer or that version of the demons, because it's a struggle. It's a struggle with faith to recognize your God, your spiritual, higher self against what you've been told, what you've learned, what is out there. So, it is so very difficult, but a visitation by Samael is not great. And almost exclusively Samael comes in dreams. So, there is a lot to unpack with all of that. And that's a long discussion. But to suggest that, yeah, it's possible that what you're really looking at is a battle for your soul. Who gets it? Where is home? Where do you go home to? Is your home the house of Lucifer? Is your home the house of Christ? Is your home the house of Samael? Is your home any number of places? And were you marked by the journey? You are on your way to finding a home. And they're calling you to a home. They're asking you to come home. They're telling you to go home. But which home? The fact that they would say hell is kind of hilarious, because hell is a many splintered thing. Even in the most common version, it's in 9 circles. So you have to come to this understanding, at the very least, that you are dealing with ideologies that you're going to have to negotiate with just to have peace. Even when you make the right decision, even when you make, if you've ever found or met somebody whose faith is overwhelming, they're so secure in their faith, nothing can penetrate it. They have made that full choice. But if you're still on the road, if you're still learning your path, if you're still trying to build the foundation of a faith, then you're susceptible to anyone who's like, oh, this one's looking for something to believe in. And I guarantee you, when you believe in something, that thing becomes significant and stronger and more powerful. And that's how religion's supposed to work. And that's how the people pay homage and give of themselves to whatever specific entity, and that entity thrives on your worship. That's what the worship is for. That is why every faith is really built on gathering as many worshipers, because the more worshipers it has, the more power and potency the force has. So yeah, we could be talking about this for a long time, but
there's so much to go into that.
It's a very interesting. It's very interesting that you were being pressed to send it in to anyone, because my guess is, if I had to guess, a shadow entity is out there trying to say you need to solidify your faith, and you have to face the false versions of the thing you believe in, because they still dwell somewhere in your consciousness. They still dwell somewhere in you there is the false version, and I say false, but the alternate versions, the equally believed in but not the one you're wanting versions, and you might need to just hear that there's room for exploration.
Right.
There's room to say, oh, you know what? I've been holding on to X, Y, and Z, and that is keeping me from a more pure understanding of what I believe in.
Well, if anything, in just a simplistic point of view of why it would have wanted you to write it out or send it to us, that could have been a part of your shadow work that you needed to be doing
Absolutely.
on yourself. Maybe it's breaking down that religious trauma of whatever it is that you might have.
I imagine she has a lot of guilt too.
Right.
The fact that she has this woman in her life, her grandmother, who she idolized and then pulled away from when her path was leading her away from the religion her grandmother subscribed to, and then to have her pass away without seeing her, and then to show up in a dream after that. There might be some shadow work needed to be done for the guilt she's feeling, and the dream is projecting that back onto her. Like,
Absolutely.
address this because it is hurting your soul.
Well,
Right.
it becomes this specific demon.
Exactly.
That guilt, because any emotion we have is a form of faith. We feel it, even if it's unwarranted, even if it doesn't, amount to truth, unquote, quote unquote, truth. It's belief because you've invested an emotion into it. You've invested a feeling into it. So if it's a feeling of guilt, even if it's not a situation of guilt, but there's a feeling of guilt, that means you believe somewhere in you the act, the pain. So, yeah, it sounds like you're being called to reconcile.
Mm-hmm. But if anything, could be a really good short film.
Oh, absolutely. Well, just that dream by itself.
Yeah.
The white eyes.
Just the
Oh,
white
man.
eyes, just the, any instance of somebody, coming out of a coffin. But really, when you think about it, that plays out in such a way where you're questioning the weight of choices, and the
Right.
weight of the journey.
It's not easy if you're working with deities or things like that. They're going to demand things of you. They're going to hold you to a higher standard and you don't get to ignore.
And they're going to try to remove all chinks in the armor.
It's true.
All chinks in your faith, all places that could be exploited by other, by other faiths to try to pry it open and say, oh, look, here is a bit of that, doubt, a bit of that fear, a bit of that grief and guilt, and they will pick at it, utilizing all the tools at their considerable library of guilt extraction.
But also with Lucifer comes other deities oftentimes if
very true.
he's your patron deity. So I would keep your eyes open for that as well, because there is a slew of different ones that often come hand in hand.
And again, there's a handful that use the same same
Methods,
moniker,
yeah.
the same name.
True.
Your Lucifer may not be the same as other faith groups' Lucifer.
So we have time for one more after that. But thank you, Maria, for sending that in. And we didn't get into the rest of the email, which had like answers to the last ghost mail, but we'll have to do that in a separate one because that was just a lot that needed to be unpacked. But thank you for sending
We'll have
that
to do
in.
like an episode of follow-ups because I think we get a couple of those follow-ups.
So-
And if you sent in a ghost mail and have follow-ups, please send them in.
Exactly. And if you also have a ghost mail that you want to send, you can send it to ghostmail@hauntedcitypodcast.com. We've gotten a slew of them in like the past 3 days. So we're going to work through those, but definitely send in the ghost mails. And also we've gotten a few questions as well, because I know people have been messaging us on TikTok and stuff. We get a lot of messages of random things. So I don't usually check those often. So if you want to make sure that it gets through to us, send it to ghost mail, because that's going to be the best way. But yes, so this last one is from Lachelle Strickland. So this is titled Ghost Mail. I think I'm sensitive to spirits. Hello. I'm going to omit some names in this story out of respect and would like my name. Oh, they said also to have their name not be used, Jay. I did not read that, so cut the name. Sorry, I did not see that. I'm sorry. Anyways, so I'll restart that. Hello, I'm going to omit some names in this story out of respect and would like my name to also not be used. I absolutely fell in love with the podcast after seeing the TikTok where Chris tells the story about the Smurfs.
Smurfs.
Ah, yes.
Of course.
Smurfs.
Everybody loves Smurf theory, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's
Smurf theory 101.
Theory 101. Next year, we'll go after the gummy bears.
Ooh, yes. I then looked you all up on Apple Podcasts and started binging and started following on YouTube. I've had several strange experiences throughout my life. Some I could explain away, some not so much. My first experience happened when I was 16 years old. One night I had stayed up way too late watching TV, and I had finally fallen asleep and suddenly had the strongest urge to wake up. I opened my eyes and was startled by a young boy and girl. They looked about 5 or 6 years old, just standing silently next to my bed. The boy was wearing a child's suit and the girl in a white dress. Oh, God. Okay. Their clothes looked something like a small child in the 80s or 90s would wear. They both had soft white glow around them, and they seemed so real, but I could see the dress in the other side of the room through them.
Oh.
Okay. I wasn't afraid, more confused as to who these kids were. I got the feeling that they were siblings. They didn't say anything, and they were there until I decided to sit up in bed. That was the only time I ever saw them. Fast forward to 2021, I had been a paramedic for about 5 years and had become incredibly close to my shift supervisor. He had become my mentor and best friend. I gave birth on November 18th, 2021 to the youngest of my 3 kids, and he came to visit me at the hospital while he was on shift. We laughed and talked when just before he left, he told me we would be working a marathon the city that we live in hosts every year. We said our goodbyes, and I told him to be safe. Little did I know at the time that was the last time I would see him alive. The next day, my EMT partner called me with the terrible news that he had been in an accident at the race and was in the ICU at the same hospital I was in. I was eventually discharged and was struggling with the postpartum depression involved in a toxic relationship that was worsening and worried about my best friend. One night I had a dream where my supervisor had come to my house with my partner. I don't remember what the beginning of the conversation was about my supervisor, but he had started walking back to the ambulance services ambulance services supervisor truck. I remember becoming extremely saddened and had began to follow him, begging him to stay longer. He turned to me and my partner and smiled. He hugged me and said, "I'm so proud of you. Keep pushing yourself to be great." He let go and I started crying. He turned to my partner and said, "I have to go. Take care of her and make sure she takes care of herself. She's going to need you." He turned and walked away. I felt like screaming and begging him to stay again, but could not in the dream make a sound no matter how hard I tried. When the truck drove away, I was woken by my phone ringing. It was my partner. He apologized for waking me up, but he wanted to tell me about this crazy dream he had had about our supervisor. I reassured him that his phone call was fine and said, I had a dream about him too, and asked if he wanted to meet up. It was 3 a.m. and we agreed to meet at a local Waffle House. He goes on to tell me about him dream fighting the urge to cry. My heart started racing when he recounted the exact same dream I had. I stared at him for a second and told him that I had the same dream. We sat in silence for a few minutes, and I think deep down we both knew what was going to happen next. Later that day, we received the news that our beloved supervisor had passed. The news came to no surprise to us, but was still heartbreaking. As I sat on the couch grieving the loss of my best friend, I thought about the dream, and what he said to me and my partner suddenly made sense. I believe it was his way of saying a final goodbye and making sure I had support that he knew I needed at the time. I have other stories about crazy dreams I've had and people close to me before and after they have passed away. I would love to hear what your thoughts on the dream the ghost kids are. Keep up the amazing work on the podcast. Love you guys. Well,
So we'll start off by saying that the most common ghost story that I've ever heard, and I have interviewed thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, is on the night my blank died, they visited me in a dream. On the night my mother died, on the night my uncle died, they visited me in a dream. That is far and away the most common ghost story of them all. And it makes 100% sense because people tend to focus on ghost stories that are bloody and gory and scary and, murder. But the truth of the matter is the most likely path back from the other side is love. You're going to be able to reach out to the people you love. You're going to be able to utilize this last moment, these last human energies on this plane to express your love, to send a message. And so without a doubt, that is, quite classically a ghost story, especially if it's a shared dream. The fact that two people have the shared dream. I've heard that several times before. People who all get the visit the same night, same time, and when they all get together, they're like, "Oh, she visited me last night and she told me to do X, Y, and Z or whatever." So I think that is pretty cut and dry, just a classic ghost story, and you should cherish it as such. Somebody reaching from beyond the veil to express their love for you. Creepy children ghosts? No.
That's bad.
No, just a big no. I'm not. I'm not a fan of creepy children ghosts, and I think we've said this on the podcast before. But when children pass, they actually have more autonomy as a ghost than most adult ghosts. And that is because they haven't been burdened with a lifetime of rules about how ghosts behave and what ghosts can and cannot do and what it even means to be dead. When you die very young, you don't have a lot of information about a transition from being alive to being dead. So it just seems like another part of being alive. And so they don't have to feed on the same energies that, say, an adult ghost who has some understanding of death and moreover the understanding that they don't belong. That sensation alone keeps ghosts quiet, keeps ghosts from interfering with life. They tend to become lurkers and watchers and ultimately shadows because they know they don't belong. Kids, not so much. They'll show up and they'll just start poking you in the face.
That's true. Well, and it sounded like almost the outfits that you would bury a child in the 80s and 90s. That's exactly.
That was another thing. I was like, I don't really know kids' outfits from the 80s and 90s. I mean, I don't know how to differentiate them per se.
Yeah.
But the fact that you had a sense of the time tells a lot about, because even if it wasn't a matter of, I recognize this clothing from this period, it suggests that somewhere in your being was a notation where you're like, I can identify that this is children of the 80s, early 90s, which raises questions as to who they are, what happened. Is it locally bound, or did you happen upon, a place where they were hanging out and they latched onto you, followed you home? Which is also a common thing. A lot of people think that every ghost encounter it happened in this house, and that's not true. Sometimes a ghost will see you and be like, I'm just going to hang on to this person.
Right.
And they follow you home. Which, by the way, if any of you ever go on a paranormal investigation, do not go directly home. Stop somewhere first. And it's funny because our go-to was like Waffle House. You go to like a Waffle House, or you go to a place where you can rest and relax, and those ghosts might just dislodge from you so that you are not bringing the ghosts directly home.
Right.
You're bringing them to another place.
We got strong rules about bringing ghosts home
Yeah.
around here.
Yes.
Although the Waffle House was the only place open after a ghost hunt. We're
Right.
finishing at 3, 4 a.m. and it's like, where do you go? The Waffle House. And they knew us there. They're like, oh yeah, thanks for your ghosts.
Thanks for that. Appreciate
It's
it.
a little more than a 20% tip. We leave you with ghosts.
Ah, yes.
So it's possible that Waffle Houses are just terribly haunted because people are coming from their ghost hunts, having, a waffle, and then going home.
Also, a whole different episode idea, but did you know that there are so many Waffle Houses where people have been killed? Yeah, it's like
Absolutely.
a thing. It is like a laundry list, and a lot in South Carolina too.
Well, that's just it. Waffle Houses being open all the time and always, the elements that end up at a Waffle House can be dangerous, can be, just the idea of you get out of the bar and you were pretty rowdy in the bar and you're like, I'm hungry. You go and now you're rowdy in a Waffle House.
True.
Because there's even an SNL skit about like the goings on at a Waffle House where they're showing like a scene of a couple having a breakup, but behind them is a Waffle House where there's just this brawl, this big fight going on.
Could you imagine haunting a Waffle House, though? Because that's where you got killed. It kind of sucks.
Although
Waffles.
All waffles,
I
all
knew
the
you were gonna
waffles,
say.
those hash browns though. The
Forever Waffles.
I mean, that's where they went at
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning to
Hashtag
discuss
haunted
their-
Waffle House.
Can you get Waffle House to sponsor you next? I would love that.
Yes,
Yes, please.
JT, work on that.
Got it.
Yeah, he's like,
We will come and eat Waffle House live on our
we
our
will
streams.
go to where Todd Colehep killed that person at the Waffle House
That's right.
in
Because
Spartanburg.
that's what the people really want is the ASMR of you eating waffles while telling ghost stories.
Yes.
Ghost Story Syrup.
Oh, gosh, no.
But anyways,
Ghost Syrup.
oh God. Well, now we're on this weird note. We can, well, let's go ahead and wrap things up here.
What?
I know. As enthralling as ghost syrup can be, it's, ghost syrup.
Just late at night, ghost hunting, you're like, I
You
taste
taste
syrup.
syrup?
Ghostly syrup.
Ooh, I mean, if they maybe worked on a maple syrup.
Also,
farm.
and I've seen this in many movies, strange fluids, don't taste them. You see a strange fluid on the ground, don't do that.
But what if it's syrup?
Don't do it.
But it could be syrup.
It could be syrup, but don't.
That should be a
and that was
good-
the other thing is like blood. People like,
Oh, that's
Blood.
blood. It's like,
it's
don't
like,
do that.
Don't do that. That's not good.
That's a great way to live your life in general. Is don't taste strange
Don't
fluids.
taste
I feel like we
strange
could shorten that to don't do it.
Don't
Don't
do
do
it.
it.
Don't do
Don't
it.
do it.
That's our new motto. Just, I want it on a T-shirt. Just don't do it.
Just don't do that. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
But thank you guys so much for watching today's episode, and thank you, Megan, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and in the next episode, well, Saturday's episode, you'll get to see Megan again in the most unhinged episode we've ever filmed. So definitely keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. But yes, with that being said, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all.
Boom.
All right, we're still live.
Hello.
And I'm gonna go to still. All right, only audio is live now.
Only audio.
Ghost Syrup's my new band name.
Go
Hello, Cleveland. We are Ghost Syrup.
Hello, Toledo.
Oh, hello, Toodly-doo.
Toodly-doos.
Toledo.
I could see like a Toledo with like the Toodly-doo mascot.
Oh, there you go.
You know, like that's their mascot. Toledo's mascot is the Toodly-doo.
Toodly-doo. We are Ghost Syrup and the Toodly-doos.
All right, Megan, you killed it. That was fun.
Yes. I know you came in for like one of the heaviest ghost mails ever.
I was
know.
like,
It's like-
you're like Code and Megan. I'm like,
Get out.
like leave
Get
that.
out.
Yeah, I'd be out of there.